I know in California, after Prop 8 was passed, there was debate specifically as to whether or not gay rights activists did enough to organize and to mobilize voters to vote against the proposition, specifically as it came to the black community. Blacks ended up voting disproportionately for the proposition. And there was a lot of discussion as to whether or not that could have been prevented. Blacks turned out in record numbers to vote for Obama that year. Do you think there was a failure of gay rights activists to organize minorities against the bill or against the proposition?
Well, I mean, I think there's also a question, sort of going back to Kate's point about religion. I mean, it's true that that it's not all religious groups that are against gay marriage, but it's also true that most are. And in the African American community, there's a much higher rate of church-going people. And so I'm not quite sure if it's as accurate to portray this as a racial issue as it is a religious issue. If you have a very, very, very high majority of religious institutions, saying in a Sunday congregation that you need to vote against Prop 8, that's hard to fight against. And the reality is that most religious organizations, if they're not actively saying it, it's implicit. And so I think that there's a mistake that's being made in not working the religious communities more and making it a very adversarial relationship to gay rights. Opposing religion to gay rights is very problematic, and it's, I think, ultimately hurting the gay rights movement. I'm not as sure that you can break it down along racial lines, because then it begins to obscure the racial diversity of the LGBTQ community.
And I also think if you look at major leaders in the African American community, the NAACP, for instance, explicitly supports same-sex marriage, and they've been pushing both by writing amicus briefs and by kind of organizing their members to support gay marriage. There was a question of we're kind of in this sticky situation because African American voters have historically been less in favor of same-sex marriage than other communities, and Obama is having them turn out in record numbers. So do gay activists then try and suppress voter turnout for Obama, who is the president that's more likely to support their agenda? Or do they kind of go along the lines of, okay, well, we're going to try and get in there and make our case as well as possible? I do think, if you kind of look at some of the things that a lot of black churches have been arguing when they write into Supreme Court cases, a lot of times they'll argue that there has been a kind of an argument from gay rights activists that if we look at kind of the institution of marriage, that the fight against anti-miscegenation laws and the fight for gay marriage are kind of similar and can be drawn in parallel. And a lot of the African American community, at least through the guise of some of the people who have been most vocal, have said that that's an inappropriate correlation to be drawing, and that has upset a lot of leaders in the African American community. But I don't think that gay rights activists should draw away from those parallels, because I do think they have some strong correlations there. But I think that those are kind of some things that the gay rights community could really work to just draw and explain why they're coming to these conclusions, and reach out to leaders in the NAACP that have been strong supporters and kind of continue to work to build the community amongst the black community in the United States.
And with that, I think we'll end the show. I thank you guys for participating. We had a great discussion. Mm-hmm. And thank you for listening. Bye.